It's time to continue with the next module from Networking with Windows Server 2016, which is on the topic of implementing DirectAccess. Hello dear friends, this is Nick and this is NOB Solutions, and we continue with the next module from Networking with Windows Server 2016 because I just want to continue and finish the course as well. A lot of people are asking for the next one, so I'm trying to push forward so we can complete this module, complete this training and continue with the 742 course. So, DirectAccess. What exactly is DirectAccess? As you know, Windows Server 2016 provides several remote access features that you can utilize, for example, VPN, web application proxy, routing, and of course DirectAccess. And this is a technology that it's not straightforward, and you'll need a bit of planning and design. You need to check the requirements, and I'm going to list everything in the description below, so you can click into the Microsoft site and just see what are the prerequisites and what type of planning for the deploy you need to consider. So in general, DirectAccess enables the remote users in your company to securely access the corporate resources, such as different applications, emails, shared folders, or internal websites without the need to connect to a VPN. DirectAccess will provide a automatic connection for the mobile users when they are outside of your corporate network, and when they bring the device within the corporate network, DirectAccess will switch so they can use the normal internal connection as well. This, of course, you can imagine is a great news for your co-workers, because they really don't want to use any different technologies, because we all know that different people have different roles, and when you present a user with for example a VPN that they need to connect, that they need to input password accounts, and sometimes things don't work, they try and they get frustrated, and they really blame us, the IT guys. So DirectAccess is a way for you to deploy everything and just leave the Microsoft functionality, the servers behind it, to do all the work for you. Just want to say another thing, that DirectAccess is a significant technology and you will need to be really familiar with it. Within this video I'll try to provide you with the basic steps, because if you want to implement the advanced settings of DirectAccess, it will take us a really long time. So let's start with the basics. Let's learn how we can configure the basic setup, and we then can grow up and try to add additional things as we move forward. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use my entirely virtualized environment, which consists of my domain controller, which we are going to use for Active Directory, and DirectAccess relies on Active Directory and group policy, so this is going to be our main server, NOBDC01. We are going to utilize my network server 01, which we are going to install the DirectAccess role, and we are going to configure the server as a network location server as well, so we can use to connect our clients to. The other server that I've configured is an optional thing within this deployment, the basic deployment, and this is a internet DNS server. So I'll try to explain a bit more. This server is going to provide DNS resolution for my DirectAccess client when the client is connected to the internet. So when it tries to look for my DirectAccess server, it will reach this one, and this one will provide him with the actual resolution, the name resolution. Finally, we are going to utilize one of my client machines, and this client machine will be the client, the user client machine that is going to connect both internally and externally when needed to utilize the DirectAccess. So let's start with configuring the network settings. I will start with my DirectAccess server, or the NOB Networking 01. What I did is I've pre-configure two network cards. One of the network cards will be connected to my internal network, which will provide access to my internal resources like Active Directory, internal websites, applications, and everything else. And the other network card is my external network card, which we are going to present as the edge card, which the users will connect using DirectAccess. So for the external network card, you can see if I click on details, I've configured an imaginary external IP address alongside with a default gateway. And I left it without any DNS server settings because this is not going to be required. Of course, it's important to say here that you need to strictly secure your network card so that it has less attack surface on it. So it's usually a good idea to disable the dynamic update on DNS and the NetBIOS. So what you can do here is you have several options to configure the DirectAccess server, and so one of the options you can see is to connect one network card to your DMZ network and one network card to your internal. Of course, you can configure a single network card and utilize NAT, which is network address translation, with the direct server, but in this case we are going to utilize the 2 NIC scenario. If I switch on my client machine, the situation is pretty much the same. But this time you will see that I have 2 network cards, one of which it is disabled at the moment. The external network card we will use only when we want this computer to be outside of the local network. So at the moment you can see one internal NIC and it is connected to my nlblab.com domain, and it's able to see all the internal resources. When we move and when we try to test the direct access, we're going to move and disable the internal NIC, enable the external NIC, and see how will the direct access try to connect and communicate with our environment externally. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to create a security group, which I'm going to use the Active Directory users and computers. And this security group will allow us to add the mobile users which are going to connect with remote access. So I'm going to the security groups OU, and we are going to create a normal security group which I'm going to call DA clients. So this is going to be a global security group, and we can click OK. And within this security group, I'm going to add as a member the NLB PC 05. If I only select the object for it, so we're going to add this client computer, which we're going to use as a direct access client. So now that we have the security group set up alongside with the client computer, we can move on to our network server, where we are going to start adding the feature remote access and installing direct access. Now that we are on my networking server, I'm going to add a role which is going to be the remote access role. I'm going to select this tick box, click next. We don't need any additional features, but it will ask us what do we want to install from the role. So for this video we want the direct access and VPN. So we are going to add the additional features. We are going to leave the IaaS services the way they are, and we are going to click install. So when this is done, we are going to continue with the actual wizard. Now that the feature has been enabled, I'm going to use the shortcut in here to open the actual remote access console, and within that console we'll be presented with the option to use or deploy. I have that 2 times, but we're going to be presented to deploy both direct access and VPN, only direct access or only VPN. So for this video we need direct access only. So it's going to initialize the configuration, and you can see that we have 3 options. I've told you that we're going to use the edge options, which we have one network card connected to a DMZ network and one network card connected to my internal network. But you can see that we have different options that you can select in here, so it's really good to see what's the best scenario in your case. The next one is the public name or IP address used by the clients to connect to the remote access server. So because this was used before for the ADFS application proxy, it automatically detects that, but I'm going to change it to DA, which stands for directaccess.noblab.com, and click OK or next. And before actually we clicked finish, it's a good idea for you to click here to edit the wizard settings. So this will provide you with a small script, let's say, or the things that it's going to configure on your direct access server. The first one is the GPO settings. You can leave them the way they are. They are going to GPO policies will be created within your domain. One is for the server settings, one is for the client settings, so they will be automatically populated. The next one is the remote clients, and by assumption, DirectAccess tries to add all of the domain computers to be available to connect to DirectAccess. But what we're going to do is we are going to remove this, and this is the place where we add the actual security group that we've pre-created with a single client. On the bottom you can see enable direct access for mobile computers only, so we are going to deselect this option. If you're using only laptops, of course this can be selected, but for now on we are going to leave so everyone can connect. On the other window you can see that we have several options. So the first table you can see right there is the network connectivity assistant. Within using this table, it will try to determine if a client computer is within your network or outside. So you can add here a resource that can be accessed internally on port 80, for example, and this will be contacted when the computers are within the network. When they are out the network, this resource will not be available, so the service will determine that the direct access needs to connect using the policies pre-configured in order for you to access internal resources. If you leave this blank, it will configure a default web probe, so you can leave it like that, and it will for testing purposes you can leave it, but it's always a good idea to pre-plan that and be sure that the resource that you want to contact is reachable. So the next one is the help desk email address. So in case the users experience any problems using direct access, these settings will be pre-populated on their computers, and they can send you the bundle of logs that they have on their computers, so the users can directly send this to administrators who can try to fix the problem for them so they can connect. So I'm going to add, for example, helpdesk@noblab.com, and the other one is the direct access connection name. So workplace connection is default, but let's say NOB Corp connection. The tick box that you see on the bottom is to allow direct access clients to use local name resolution, and I'm going to select this one because I want the users to be able to resolve internal local names after that, and we can click finish to this one. So now we are back again on the remote access settings and review that we can do, and the two other things you can do right here is to change the remote access server, or change the settings that we pre-populated, or check what are the external NIC that is going to be used and what is the internal network card that is going to be used, alongside with the certificate that is going to be used for the IP to HTTPS connections. So we're going to click finish on that one. I don't need to make any changes. And the last one are the infrastructure servers. So you can see that the noblab.com and the DNS server address will be pre-configured for you. And you have two other options that you can configure as well. So you can add an address, but in my case, this is not needed. So as everything is configured, I can click OK. and then finish and wait for the wizard to add everything for me, and just sit back, relax, and wait for DirectAccess to start working in. So after the wizard finish compiling the settings, I can see that it applied successfully but with warnings, and I know what could be the cause of it, because I used my external DA, if you remember da.noblab.com, to be the external record for contacting the DirectAccess server. It is pretty much the same as my internal domain, and the wizard does not like that. So in your case, most probably you will have an external domain. So let's say my external domain can be nlbsolutions.co.uk, for example, and my external record will be different, and this error will not appear. So if you see this one, yeah, what you can do if you made a mistake, for example, like me, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is so we can see if it's going to make any difference. I don't think it's going to be, but yeah, you can go to the edit, and this is the public name that it does not like, because my internal domain, it's pretty much the same as the external one. So this record needs to be added in the as an exemption in the rules, or the net name resolution policy table, or NRPT. So initially, after starting up the DirectAccess and VPN within the remote access management console, it will start collecting information about your server and will say if there are any problems detected in here. So after a few seconds, you can see that everything is pretty much working without any significant errors. On the bottom you can see that we have a console where we can see the remote client status, or when a client is connected to our DirectAccess server. On the dashboard you will see a summary of everything that is going on with the server, if the configuration contains any problems, or if you go on to the DirectAccess in VPN, you will see what is your topology, and you can make any changes if needed in here that were pretty much bundled in the wizard that we've configured at the beginning. So if I switch to my domain controller and promptly open a group policy management, I will see that I have the two group policies linked to my domain. One is for the client side settings, one is for the server settings. So they are now applied to our client computer. So what we can do next is we can switch to the client computer and try to update the group policy settings to take effect. Now that we are on the client computer, I'm going to right click and open a PowerShell as administrator. And within the PowerShell, what we can do is make GP update and then force. So we can force the GP settings to be re-applied to this computer. And after that, we can try and check to see if the actual DirectAccess policy is applying. So we can use the command gp result and then r and then scope for computer, and it will populate. So you can see that currently applied group policy object, one of it is the DirectAccess client settings. So now if we try a command, for example, get remote or get DA connection status and press enter, you will see that the connection status states that we are connected locally, and no substatus is provided. Another thing that we can check within the client PowerShell is get DA client experience configuration, press enter, and within here we'll see that we have the DA client settings alongside with the NOB Corp connection that we've configured and the help desk at noblab.com domain. So if we go to the computer settings, network and internet, and then DirectAccess, the NOB Corp connection is already pre-created and it's waiting to be utilized. So now what we can do is just minimize this for now, and we can simulate that our computer is taking from the internal corporate network with disabling the network adapter, which will disconnect the session, but yeah, I will jump in straight away. So I've disconnected the internal network card and connected this external network card, and right now we are connected, you can see straight away, with an IPv4 address of 77.70.15.11. So the DNS server is the internet server that I've told you about, which is going to help me to resolve the external name, which is da.noblab.com. So you can see straight away that it's trying to connect and it's able to provide me the proper IP address, but I do not have a ping at the moment. So let me see what's going on. So nevertheless, I don't have a ping to my DirectAccess server. I saw that actually my client computer is currently connected to my DirectAccess server. So if I switch on the DirectAccess server and click refresh, I can see that the protocol or tunnel, it's IP HTTPS, and the duration was when I actually switched the network interfaces. So the connection is stable. I can see the computer name, I can see the user. If I click on right click and click on details, I will see what exactly is the status at the moment with all for example, total bytes in, total bytes out. So what we can try now is, if I switch to my client machine, if I try to ping my domain controller, NLB, DC01, you will see that using DirectAccess, I'm able to reach the domain controller, but it is resolving on the IPv6 instead of IPv4. This is because DirectAccess primarily works with IPv6, and the pings that way returns an IPv6 address when you are not in the internal network. So you can imagine that in order for you to be working with DirectAccess, the IPv6 needs to be enabled on the network card on both the client and the server end. So now if I type ipconfig, you will see straight away that I have the external NIC enabled with the IPv4 address, which is an external IPv4 address, and below you can see the HTTPS IP HTTPS interface, which is configured with a IPv6 address. So if I try to open a web page from my internal network, let's try with Internet Explorer. So let's say HTTP and then NLB network 01. It should be able to access my DirectAccess or any of the internal applications that I have within my corporate network. So yeah, in general, this is how you configure the basic configuration of DirectAccess, and this is not pretty scalable. So what you need to do, like I said once again, is you need to plan and read about DirectAccess. Although it seems that it's a pretty confusing technology, it is a built-in solution that instead of using a third-party applications, third-party VPN solutions, you can use DirectAccess, so your users can have seamless connection within the office and outside of the office. This is how you can deploy a single DirectAccess server using the Getting Started wizard, and I showed you what additional configuration needs to happen both on the DirectAccess server and on the client machines, what are the settings, but I really encourage you to go ahead and check the documents provided from Microsoft. In there you will see a detailed explanation, a step-by-step explanation of what prerequisites do you need, what are the supported and unsupported configurations, any known issues, different kinds of planning, and in there you will find even a direct test lab guides that you can follow and create your own test environment to test DirectAccess. This was Nick from NLB Solutions. If you liked the video, you can always subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, share with friends so we can grow and make a big community, which I really hope that we can help each other. If you have any comments, you can put them in the comment section, or questions. I will try to explain them and try to provide a solution if I can, of course. And if you don't like the video, hit the thumbs down button and leave a comment what can be improved, what do you need to see, what additional things can be added into a video. So once again, this was Nick, this was NLB Solutions. See you in the next lab.